remember, that movie was 130 minutes long. It was a lot of music. I would say it was over 90 minutes of music. And it was a lavish movie, an expensive movie that everyone wanted to have reach as wide an audience as possible.
One of the biggest pop stars of the 2000s spent an entire day on the set of Dreamgirls, and almost nobody noticed her. Before she became Kesha, she was just another background extra, sitting through 16 hours of filming with enormous teased hair and earning roughly $120. Years later, Jennifer Hudson discovered the connection on television and could barely believe it. But that is only one of the strange stories buried inside this Oscar-winning musical. What else happened behind the scenes that audiences completely missed? And which details about Dreamgirls sound too crazy to be true? Join us as we uncover 28 facts that even longtime fans never knew. Number 28. The film was shot in 4 months flat. Dreamgirls started filming in January 2006 and wrapped by April, a tight 4-month production window for a musical this ambitious, shot partly in downtown Los Angeles, which stood in for a completely different American city and a completely different era, recreating the look of Chicago and New York across multiple decades, dressing California streets to pass convincingly for cities with entirely different architectural identities, and doing all of it while managing an enormous ensemble cast, a complex original score, and hundreds of period-specific costume changes. That is the kind of invisible labor that never makes the trailer but carries half of a film's atmospheric believability. Director Bill Condon moved fast and deliberately, and the result was a film that felt lived in rather than rushed, despite being produced in a fraction of the time most comparable studio productions require. But how the movie actually got in front of audiences turned out to be just as calculated as anything that happened on set. Number 27. The slow rollout was a masterclass in award season strategy. The movie did not simply drop into every theater in the country overnight. It opened at New York's Ziegfeld Theater on December 4, 2006, then began a limited roadshow engagement starting December 15th, playing in only a handful of carefully selected cities to build word of mouth and formally qualify for award season consideration before a wider audience could see it. It did not go wide across the whole country until Christmas Day, a slow but deliberately orchestrated rollout designed to turn the film into an event rather than just a release, to give critics and awards voters time to process it before the rest of America caught up. That kind of strategy worked, and it did not come cheap. Number 26. The budget was $75 million. The film ran somewhere between $75 and $80 million to produce, and it pulled in $155.4 million at the box office worldwide, more than double its production cost. For a movie built around a Broadway musical rather than a superhero franchise or an established action property, that is a genuinely impressive return on investment and a vindication of the slow rollout strategy that had kept it out of most theaters until Christmas morning. But a movie that expensive, released on Christmas Day, with numbers that strong, obviously swept the award season completely, right? Not exactly. Number 25. The Best Picture snub nobody saw coming. The film won 2 Academy Awards and collected additional trophies at the Golden Globes, the Grammys, and the BAFTAs across a triumphant award season.
And the Oscar goes to Jennifer Hudson.
And yet, despite being one of the most heavily discussed frontrunners of the entire year, Dreamgirls became infamous for a snub that shocked the industry. It failed to land a Best Picture nomination at all, becoming one of the more surprising Oscar omissions of that decade, and generating the kind of breathless awards conversation that only happens when everyone assumed an outcome that did not materialize. One cast member did walk away with a nomination out of that chaotic snub season, though, and it was a genuine first for him personally. Number 24. Eddie Murphy got his first and only Oscar nomination here. Eddie Murphy, playing a James Brown-inspired soul singer named James "Thunder" Early, earned his first and only Academy Award nomination to date for this performance. For an actor who had spent the previous 2 decades building one of the most commercially successful careers in Hollywood comedy, it was a genuine reinvention that the industry acknowledged with the specific seriousness of a first nomination. The moment when voters collectively say, "We see you doing something different, and it is working." But the biggest individual trophy of the night went to someone who had never been in a movie before. Number 23. Jennifer Hudson won an Oscar for her very first film role. Jennifer Hudson won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her performance as Effie White, and this was her first film role of any kind. She walked from complete film acting anonymity directly to an Oscar, a Golden Globe, a Screen Actors Guild Award, a BAFTA, and the Sammy Davis Jr. Award for Entertainer of the Year. Interestingly, the scene that earned her most of that hardware has its own secret buried inside it. Number 22. She listened to her grandmother's music between takes. Jennifer's show-stopping delivery of "And I am telling you I'm not going" was not purely a matter of technical preparation or rehearsed emotional access. Between takes, she isolated herself and listened to the music her grandmother used to play for her, the same grandmother who had taught her how to perform and whom Jennifer believed possessed the raw talent to become a genuine star herself, but had never received the opportunity to demonstrate it. That level of emotional commitment to getting the moment exactly right did not stop once the cameras started rolling either. Number 21. She rejected the studio recording and did the whole thing again. The solo was pre-recorded in a studio before filming began, which is standard practice for movie musicals. Actors perform to a backing track rather than singing live on camera, giving the production control over the sound quality. Jennifer listened to the pre-recorded version, decided it was not emotionally raw enough, and went back into the recording studio to recut the track from scratch. The version you hear in the finished film is the one she insisted on re-recording, rather than the original studio take, which any other production might simply have used and considered the matter resolved. The fact that this re-recording became the performance that won her the Oscar validates the instinct entirely, and that wasn't even the only major song in the movie that hid its own interesting backstory. Number 20. Love You I Do won a Grammy. Love You I Do, the tender love song Jennifer performs as Effie in the film's early scenes, was written specifically and entirely for the movie. It was not part of the original 1981 stage musical at all. It was created from scratch to serve the film's specific emotional needs in that moment. It went on to win a Grammy in 2008 for Best Song Written for Visual Media, which means it not only succeeded as an original composition, but was also recognized by the recording industry as one of the best original contributions to film that year. And it was not even the only brand new addition to the story, earning major award recognition. Number 19. Beyoncé's Listen got an Oscar nomination and had nothing to do with Broadway. Beyoncé's emotionally charged performance of Listen earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Song, a fact that most casual fans familiar with both the film and the stage musical probably assume was always part of the Dreamgirls story since the original 1981 production. It was not. The song did not exist before the film. Director Bill Condon added it specifically because he felt the film's second half needed what he described as a greater emotional punch. And it worked so completely and so powerfully that it was eventually folded back into stage productions of the musical after the film demonstrated how effectively it served the story. So two of the film's most award-recognized and emotionally resonant songs technically did not exist until Hollywood wrote them specifically for this adaptation, which makes you wonder what else was happening on that set that never made the press notes or the official production story. Number 18. Eddie Murphy tumultuous personal life while filming. Eddie Murphy was in the middle of his divorce from Nicole Murphy.
Eddie Murphy has gotten divorced! I'm not sure he was really married in the first place.
He apparently was in a non-binding marriage
During the entire Dreamgirls production, and he has since admitted in interviews that he was essentially operating on autopilot throughout the shoot, barely retaining clear memories of the experience of making the film at all. He showed up, he delivered the performance that earned him an Oscar nomination, and he went home, and the interior experience of doing all of that while Simultaneously navigating the emotional weight of a marriage ending is something he has described as a blur that only came into focus for him when he watched the finished film. Even in that fog, though, he noticed one quiet moment that he kept entirely private for almost 20 years. Number 17. Eddie witnessed a private moment between Beyoncé and Jennifer. Eddie Murphy quietly witnessed a small, intimate exchange between his two co-stars on set and never mentioned it publicly until years later. He saw Beyoncé gently reach out and take Jennifer Hudson's hand, saying, "Ooh, girl, don't do that. I'll get you some cream." A small, protective, genuinely warm gesture between two women that Eddie said neither of them knew he had witnessed. He held on to that detail for nearly 2 decades, a private piece of evidence that the narrative of rivalry and tension between the two stars of the film was something the press had manufactured rather than something that existed on that set. So, where did the rivalry story come from in the first place, and how did both women respond to it? Number 16. The rivalry narrative was media fiction. After the film came out and the awards recognition began arriving heavily in Jennifer's direction, multiple outlets ran with the idea that Beyoncé was secretly jealous of her co-star stealing the spotlight. That story followed both women for years, becoming one of those celebrity narratives that persists through repetition rather than evidence. Beyoncé addressed it publicly and directly before the film even went wide, saying that the rivalry talk was entirely manufactured, that she had understood going in that Effie was the showier role and had been completely fine with that reality. Years later, she called the entire jealousy narrative cliched and said it hurt her heart that people needed that story to be true, even though the actual relationship between them had been genuinely warm, if the two of them were actually supportive of each other the whole time. How did Jennifer end up standing next to Beyoncé in the first place? Number 15. Kesha was a $120 background extra. The Kesha reveal from the intro deserves its full story. She genuinely appeared in Dreamgirls as a background extra, sitting in a crowd scene for 16 hours with period-appropriate teased hair, collecting about $120 for her time. She had said nothing about it publicly for years, then let it slip live on the Jennifer Hudson show while sitting across from the film's Oscar-winning star, and Jennifer genuinely had no idea. She went back and rewound the film afterward, trying to spot Kesha somewhere in the background of a crowd scene, which is an almost surreal image, an Oscar winner searching frame by frame through her own movie for a pop star who was sitting somewhere in the background, while she delivered one of the most celebrated performances of the decade. Long before the extras were placed and the crowd scenes were populated, though, Jennifer herself had to actually win the part, and it was not a simple or quick process. Number 14. Jennifer auditioned 3 times over 6 months. She did not walk into one audition, sing the song, and get the call the next day. She auditioned 3 separate times over 6 months, a drawn-out, patience-testing process that required her to keep coming back and demonstrating that what the creative team had seen the first time was still there and still growing. Rather than a one-time performance she could not consistently replicate. The night before she finally got the news, she did something that became one of the more quietly striking details in her entire story. Number 13. Moments before the outcome. The night before the call came, Jennifer sat on the steps of the church across from her house and prayed about it. Not a petition for the role, but a genuine surrender, telling Oprah years later that she said simply, "If it's meant for me, it's for me." 2 weeks later, the phone rang, and the part was hers. What happened next made that surrender look almost prophetic in retrospect. Number 12. Her first film role was straight to an Oscar. Dreamgirls was her first film acting credit of any kind, not her breakthrough after some smaller roles, not her coming out moment after a few years building toward it, her literal first. She went from praying on church steps to delivering the single most awarded debut film performance of the 21st century. That extraordinary debut.
My director, Bill Condon, you have been an angel. I could not have created Effie without you.
Came after beating out an extraordinary number of people to get the role. Number 11. She beat out 780 women. Jennifer did not win Effie White in a modest audition process. She beat out more than 780 women who competed for the same role, a number that included American Idol winner Fantasia Barrino and Disney star Raven-Symoné. Both Fantasia and Raven-Symoné were considered genuine contenders with public profiles that Jennifer, at that stage of her career, did not have. Fantasia had won the most watched season of American Idol.
It's Idol, let's see. I feel really good. Actually, it's the first time I'm not nervous. Going back always reminds me of just where it all started.
And Raven-Symoné had been a recognizable name since childhood. Jennifer had been a contestant on a previous Idol season who did not win. She walked into that audition without their advantages and walked out with the role anyway. Not everyone who lost the lead audition went home empty-handed. Number 10. The runners-up still found their way into the film. Yvette Nicole Brown did not land the lead but still ended up appearing in the film in a supporting capacity. Loretta Devine, who had originated an entirely different role in the very first 1981 Broadway production of Dreamgirls, and who had her own piece of the show's original history, appeared in the movie in a separate smaller part as a jazz singer. John Krasinski, already known from The Office at the time of filming, turned up as a music executive named Sam Walsh in what amounts to a blink-and-miss-it appearance from someone who would go on to considerably larger things.
Will Curtis even let you do it? I hear he's got you on a pretty tight leash.
That won't be a problem, Jerry.
The ensemble that assembled around the film's central performances was populated with people whose own stories added layers to the production that most viewers never registered while watching it. While Jennifer was building Effie up physically and emotionally, her co-star was doing something entirely the opposite. Number 9. Jennifer gained 20 pounds and Beyoncé lost 20 pounds for the same movie. To play Effie White convincingly as a full-bodied, powerful 1960s soul singer, Jennifer deliberately gained 20 pounds for the role to serve the character's presence on screen and to honor the full-figured aesthetic that defined Effie as distinct from the more fashion-forward dreamettes around her. Beyoncé, playing the more glamorous and slender Dina Jones, went in exactly the opposite direction, losing 20 pounds through a 14-day master cleanse that nobody had asked her to undertake. She made the choice herself, committed to it fully, and spent 2 weeks drinking a lemon-based mixture while surrounded by a film crew eating Krispy Kreme donuts. That cleanse came with predictable consequences for everyone sharing set space with her. Number 8. Beyoncé was grouchy the entire time. She has openly admitted in subsequent interviews that the cleanse made her miserable throughout the shoot. Short-tempered, hungry, and acutely aware of every piece of food anyone within a reasonable radius was consuming. The image she has described of sitting on set, watching crew members eat donuts while she drank lemon water, has a low-grade quality of suffering that is both entirely relatable and somehow very funny, given the global superstar context. But even landing those 2 lead roles almost didn't happen the way anyone initially assumed it would. Number 7. The director originally wanted total unknowns for all 3 leads. Director Bill Condon's original casting philosophy for Dreamgirls was to avoid famous faces entirely. He wanted all 3 dreamettes played by total strangers. The logic was sound. Familiarity with a performer creates a layer between the audience and the character, and a story this grounded in specific emotional intimacy required faces that the audience had no prior relationship with. Bill wanted nothing between the audience and the performances. One actress had a different idea. Number 6. Beyoncé fought for the role and changed the entire casting plan. Beyoncé reportedly pursued the role of Dina Jones aggressively and only secured it after delivering a screen test strong enough to fundamentally change Condon's original vision for how the film should be cast. A woman who was already one of the most famous people on Earth walked into an audition for a director who did not want famous people and convinced him that his vision needed to accommodate her. The audition changed the plan. Once Beyoncé was in, the unknowns-only philosophy was effectively over, and the casting process that eventually produced the ensemble the film ended up with was set in motion. Getting the film made at all, though, had been its own decades-long battle before any of the casting conversations ever happened. Number 5. A film version of this story had been in development since the 1980s. A Dreamgirls film had been kicking around Hollywood in various states of development since the 1980s, decades before this version eventually reached production. At different points in those years, Whitney Houston was rumored to be attached to the project. Lauryn Hill's name circulated during a later period of development. Various studios and producers came and went without the project ever reaching the point of actually getting made. Warner Bros. Eventually abandoned the film entirely before DreamWorks and Paramount picked it back up in the mid-2000s and finally got it across the finish line. And long before Hollywood was involved, the stage show itself had come frightening close to losing its most essential character. Number 4. Effie White was written to die at the end of Act 1. In the original 1981 Broadway production, Effie White was written to die at the end of the first act. She was supposed to die halfway through Act 1 of the original show. Jennifer Holliday, the actress who originated the role on Broadway, was so deeply opposed to this creative decision that she quit the production entirely, according to the show's production history. Her departure forced writers Tom Ine and Henry Krieger to go back and rewrite the story so that Effie survived, and the show they produced after that rewrite was successful. And after all of that history, one basic question about the story's origins still does not have an official answer. Number 3. The show's connection to Diana Ross. Despite the show's obvious creative inspiration from Motown, the producers and creators of both the original stage show and the film have consistently and publicly denied any direct or official connection to Diana Ross or any specific real person's biography. The official position has always been that Dreamgirls is a work of fiction loosely inspired by an era in American music history, not a dramatization of any individual's actual life. Whether that position reflects genuine creative intent or careful legal positioning, it has held across 45 years and the creators have never deviated from it. Number 2. The casting included someone with deep stage roots. Loretta Devine, who appeared in the film as a jazz singer in a supporting role, had been part of the original 1981 Broadway cast of Dreamgirls, not as Effie, but as Laurel Robinson, one of the Dreamettes. Her appearance in the film connected the movie directly to the stage show's original creative moment, bringing someone who had been inside that first production into the adaptation. For anyone who knew her history with the material, her presence was a quiet tribute embedded in the casting. Now, to the last fact in this countdown. Number 1. The film launched a career that nobody saw coming. The full arc of what Dreamgirls produced for Jennifer Hudson remains genuinely difficult to account for in conventional career terms. She was an American Idol contestant who did not win. She beat 780 women for a film role. She listened to her grandmother's music between takes on a song she then rejected, insisting on re-recording it from scratch. She prayed on church steps and surrendered the outcome 2 weeks before the phone rang. And then she won an Oscar, a Golden Globe, a SAG Award, a BAFTA, and the Sammy Davis Jr. Award, simultaneously in the same year for the same role in her first film. That is Dreamgirls. The movie everybody watched on Christmas Day and thought they understood completely. Which one of these 28 facts hit you the hardest? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and DM. Subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.